Welcome to another session, and in today's session we're going to be looking at functions in JavaScript. So I've written a lot of the codes. What I'm going to be doing is to explain the code, what they do for us. So we have a typical HTML structure where we have our script tag already linked. So this is linked to app.js, which is the file that we have right here. So when we get to app.js file, what we want to do is we want to see how we can use functions in JavaScript, how we can make use of functions. So there are different ways to create functions in JavaScript. The very first way to create function is by using the function keyword, the name of the function, and whatever we want to be in the function. So for example, what we have here, let's do it again. So we say function, the name of the function, and what the name of the function, which is this. So add numbers. So we have, if you look very well, we have num1 and num2 here. Those are called parameters. So you can see when I hover on these, I'm getting parameter, and the name of that parameter is num2. So what parameter is, it simply means like a variable that will store some values. That's what the parameters is. So let me get rid of these. So we have num1 and num2. These are parameters, and the reason why we are having these parameters is because we want to store two numbers in each, and one number in each of the parameter. So num1, we have a number stored in it. Num2, we have another number stored in it. So when we return result and we console log add numbers, so we have to now provide values. So let me remove this and let's do it. So this is the function. I'm going to do it again. So we say function add numbers, right? And then this function will carry parameter 1, which is num1, comma. So you can have more than two parameters. We can have two parameters, we can have 5 parameters, we can have 10 parameters, and we can also have 0 parameters. So some functions can come without parameters at all. But in this case, we want to work with parameters. So I want to create a variable inside of my function that will store the results. So results will be equal to what? We are adding two numbers, isn't it? We are adding num1 and num2. So result will be equal to num1 plus num2. So whatever we get when we add num1 and num2 together will be stored in the variable called result. So I'm going to say num1 plus num2 like this. Then in order for us to have access to whatever output we are getting from the function, we have to use the keyword called return. And what are we returning? We are returning result. We are returning result. So when we say return result, we can now have access to that by doing console log, or we can even call the name of the function we've created. So without calling the name of the function, you cannot make use of the function. The function would just be created. But at this point, we've created a function called add numbers, but we've not done anything to add numbers, right? So I'm quickly going to do that by saying console.log, and I'm going to call the function, which is add numbers, right? Then remember that add numbers has parameters attached to it. So those parameters, when we start providing values for those parameters, they are now called arguments. So at this point, they are called arguments. So during the time we were creating this function where we have the parameters, where we have the values inside of this bracket, they are called what? They are called parameters. But at the point of execution, they are called arguments. So I'm going to get rid of all of this. I'm going to get rid of all of them so that when we console log this, we're going to see only that result. So we're loading the page now. Inspect, go to inspect window. Remember we are console logging. So come to console and you see that we have 12 here. Because what this means is all we did is for example, we created a variable var addition, for example, and we said we'll set it equal to 4 plus 8 plus 8, and we say console.log addition, which is the variable additions. So that's exactly what the function is doing. The function is taking two numbers and adding them, then giving us output of those numbers. So that's what this function is actually doing. So we can call more things with this. So the importance of using functions is for us to use it multiple times. So this particular one that we have here, we cannot reuse this code. If we want to do addition of a different number, for example, we now have to come and create another variable and say vars whatever, let's say numbers, let's say additions 2 equal to, and whatever we are adding, 5 plus 3, for example, then console log that again. So you see that this is already a time wasting. So with the function, we can easily say console.log, and then we have add numbers again. We always call the function add numbers. We have that here, and then we pass in the values that we want to add, 5, 7. So this is all we need to do. So we can keep repeating these stacks and keep having different values, and when we console log that, we are having values for that. So it seems we're having 12, 12. Let's make this 10, for example, so that it's not the same. So this is what we have now. Now, the question we might be having is, what happens if we don't use the return keyword there? For example, we don't have this. Let's get rid of this. And when we save and we go back, we're going to get undefined there, right? So we are not returning anything. So our console.log does not understand what is going on. So we are getting undefined as a data type. So when we have the return, we now have access to whatever that function is returning, right? So that's for this. Let's create another function using this method. We're going to call it minus numbers. So the same process, we're going to give these parameters. Remember that functions can stay without parameters. For example, let's say we don't want to give these parameters. So this is how we create a function. Then this is the function block. The codes that we apply inside of these curly brackets are what the function executes when we call the function. So for example, I can say var results. I can also use results here equal to 5 minus 10 or 19. Then I can say return results. So when I come out and I say console.log, I'm calling that function that I've created. Console.log what? Minus numbers. So to call a function, calling it like this will not work. when I run this, I won't get any result. So you have to add this parenthesis at the end of it. So that's how we call function. Now, when we save and go back, we have minus 14 as our answer because 5 minus 19 should give us minus 14. Now, a problem, this is where parameters come in. So we put parameters when we want to manipulate, want to have that data in runtime, at runtime. We don't want to have the data at the code time or yeah. So to solve that problem, we're going to remove this. We're going to say num1 minus num2. So this will not work. We have to create the parameters here. Num1, comma, num2. So we have these working now. Over here, we now need to provide numbers. So we say 7, comma, 5. When we save, we're going to get a good result, right? So that's for functions. So that's for functions. See you in the next class.